Hi, Vidya. Thanks so much for joining the show. You join us as Director of Design at SoFi. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and journey in UX?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me. And certainly, I would be happy to walk you through my journey in UX. I started off with my grad school. That's when I moved here. I migrated here from India, and my undergrad was in business. But crunching numbers was not something I was interested in. I was teaching software design or web design at the time back in India, and I started teaching at the age of 18. And then that got me further interested in digital design. Obviously, I applied for schools here and then migrated here. At the end of my MFA, I decided to move to New York, and that kind of gave me a head start into publication. So I worked at Rodell as their designer on the interactive division, and I was responsible to design interactive websites at the time for Men's Health, Women's Health magazine, and Prevention magazine. Thereon, I moved on to media, which is Fox Digital, which is a property of News Corp, and I was responsible for their digital team, so online division. I was leading their design team, the UX team for Fox Digital, Fox News, and also responsible to collaborate with channel graphics and their on-air shows. After Fox, I decided to move back from New York to California, and that brought me to a mid-state startup here. And eventually, I led their omni-channel teams and moved on to Disney Interactive, where I was leading UX UI for their online games or their mobile game division. And then I was interested in enterprise software as well. And I knew that the user problems were very complex there. So that gave me the boost to explore enterprise side of the business. And that got me to Moody's Analytics. And I was leading the product design team there, and overseeing a lot of the design for stress testing, risk assessment, benchmarking apps. I still missed the user side of, things where you could interact with your users, you could talk to your users. And so, that I was missing the B2C side of business, and that brought me back to SoFi, and that was a perfect opportunity. And so I navigated through user experience, and now I lead product design teams at SoFi.
Awesome. Thanks for that background. Can you tell us a little bit about designing for SoFi? I imagine there's some unique considerations in the fintech space, especially for big decisions, right? You guys are dealing with student loans, people making their first investments. What are some unique considerations for UX in that space?
I think it's really important to understand your user journey and the problem to solve, because really just understanding the end-to-end experience that you want to offer to your members. But each product is unique, and as we think about different business strategies and cross-buy opportunities, we want to make sure that we offer full financial, life cycle experience, and we're building that life cycle experience for our members. And so that's something that we keep in mind. Where in their life is this particular member, and how can we offer the best lifetime value through our products and services? So that's something that we look at.
Vidya, what's your approach to building an effective design system? I'm sure many of the companies you've been at have used design systems, and how do you approach that?
It's a very good question, and it's not something that's easy to solve, especially if you have smaller teams. But historically, we've seen that design systems is gaining more and more importance. While some teams might feel like design systems sort of slows you down, but realistically, if you look at it, it helps you really move fast. It helps you, build efficiency across different teams, and it's not just for designers, but also for engineers. So when you think of a system, you think about components, you think about repeatable patterns, and those patterns can, you can actually elevate that to another level and think about it as, how can we think about screens and those patterns all together. So creating these stencils or templates for screens and really building that efficiency. So, you're not building 5 different screens, 5 different ways. And, that also doesn't help with your engineering teams, right? Because you're not only losing efficiency, but you're also losing a lot of momentum in building, right? In development cycles. So, and content strategy also becomes an important part of design systems. So when you're thinking about your foundational elements, your color scheme, your typography, your grid system, but then you also layer in the voice and tone that your brand needs to speak, and want to make sure you're aligning closest to your brand strategy. And so all these elements put together become the foundation of design system. But then when you're thinking about building an app or making sure you're building multiple surfaces for different products, cross-product experiences within your app, I think design system goes a long way in making sure you're building that consistency in experience. Not just consistency for the sake of consistency, right? You're actually thinking about screens, you're actually thinking about patterns, even the way the app feels, right? It's not just how it looks, it works. It also how it functions, as Steve Jobs said. And I tend to quote this quite often, but I firmly believe that, even the transitions, the gestures, the animation that you apply, everything you would want to think about it from a framework standpoint and not just single usage, right? So that helps you scale better. Even with a small, robust team, I think you can achieve a lot of great things.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're talking about the speed and scale efficiencies that a design system can bring. You're also mentioning teams. How do you approach constructing an effective design team?
I generally approach it with a lot of trust. And I believe authenticity is super important when building a team, right? You can empower your team to do the best work, but if they're not authentic, if people don't bring in authenticity, and that becomes your foundation for building great culture too within your organization. I think it's really important that people feel like they belong, there's diversity, you're inclusive in thoughts and feedback, and you're building that safe space for your teams to discuss topics, discuss things, and provide feedback. And all in all, you need to have a design vision for the team to strive, like, what are you striving towards? What are you solving for?
Right.
And just the team dynamics. So really, and I also feel like one big important point for efficient teams is the ability to say no and when to push back and setting those boundaries. So there's, you're thinking about it from an empathy standpoint, right? Saying yes to everything doesn't really help anyone. And so approaching that with a lot of empathy towards your team and, empowering them to set those boundaries is super important. So yeah, those are some of the foundational things that I often think about. And I think it's super critical.
Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks,
Likewise.
Alex.